for cruise, the Disney
Oh,
cruises,
yeah.
and just
Okay.
got married on Disney cruise.
Well, I like the fact that if I'm driving in the car and I can just go, oh, it's 10:01.
I like that.
I like that it says good morning, pal.
Yeah. Good night.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, good. You're loud and clear. Okay, everyone, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. First item on the agenda today is approval of the previous meeting minutes from April 9th and April 23rd of 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you.
Turn on narrator by pressing Windows +Control +Enter.
Someone's talking.
Accessibility features. Press Windows +.
Do we keep going?
Select the
Yeah, okay, all right.
accessibility icon in the bottom.
Next thing is Ms. Deborah Hamilton will cover our financial statements.
Okay. As of April 30th, comparing year over year, we have 12.9% increase over cash from prior year. The liabilities have decreased by 55%, and our total fund balance has increased by 15.44% over prior year. On our revenues, we are slightly less than prior year due to the interest rates are being lower from previous year, as well as this time last year, we had already received the third quarter payment. We have not received the third quarter payment as in April, but we have received it May 6th. So you'll see that the next time I report the financials, or in May or whenever the next meeting is. As far as expenses, year to date, we have spent $1.081 million in expenses. This is 16.4% less than prior year, and we still have a ways to go. The majority of the expenses are coming from the transfers, and that'll be done this month. We'll do the transfers this month so we can get a clear picture on where we are, a better picture on where we were in the year. As far as the last two sheets of the financials, nothing has changed here because we haven't received the payment as of April 30th, but this will be updated when I post the payment for May 6th. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, Deborah. All right, next item on the agenda is old business, the consideration of the applications for the fiscal year 26 state accommodation tax funds, easy for me to say. And Douglas and Deborah and Nicole, I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. So we have the four items that we've all seen the applications for. It's not necessarily an up or a down vote, so we can vote to say, for example, we can fund a percentage of each of the individual ones, or we can say do not fund or do fund. And our cap here is $75,000.
The $75,000 is what's in the budget.
Okay.
The next,
You-
oh, yeah, we already did.
Yeah.
This is for next year.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. It's not to say that you couldn't make a recommendation that's not perfectly aligned with the
Okay.
budget, but that is what's in the budget. I think that would be the cleanest would be if
Right.
you would keep it within the approved budget.
So not necessarily capped, but that's the guidance at this
Yeah,
point.
I think-
Okay, all right, fair enough,
I
thank you.
think it's fair to consider it capped. It's not technically capped.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so as you guys will recall from our last discussion, this was basically it's not time, I don't believe it's time for discussion at this point in time. I believe it's basically time for us to discuss. I say it's not time for discussion. We should be saying we're not here to like pick apart the merits. I think of the applications. In other words, like I said before, we can say we deem it appropriate to fund 50% of this, or whatever else. But I think that it's not where we go through and pick apart the application, I guess is the point.
Okay, I thought that was exactly what we were going to do this time.
I mean-
When do we have that opportunity?
If I remember correctly, and I think we can, but the folks aren't here to defend themselves, so that extends the vote, or the discussion. But I think we discussed in the last meeting, and you guys please correct me if I'm wrong, is that if there were any questions or clarifications, we were supposed to send those to city administration. to clear anything up. So if you have specific questions and we don't want to vote, then I suppose we could push it out a little bit. But this last however many days was to clarify anything that you had. So if there are clarifications, it's not to say that we can't not vote today unless a double negative. But if you're prepared to vote, we can vote. And if you're not prepared to vote, then we would need to get those questions to the city, and then we would have to figure out a way to get another vote in before, what would the deadline or drop dead date be for the budget for this next year?
We're at it, aren't we?
This may seem like a simple question. If we were to vote not to use all of this, would that roll over to the following fiscal year, or does it have to be spent this year, or it gets redirected?
So this is the fiscal year that hasn't started yet, so it will start in July. So if you will,
Fiscal.
that's correct. So if you were to want to not fund the full amount that's been budgeted right out of the gates, and you want to fund something else at another time, you could choose to do that.
Didn't we open up applications late last year? Wasn't there a second
Did we do it
round?
twice?
Last year.
Yeah, so that has,
We had like $15,000 residual or something, yeah.
So that just stays in the city coffer, or ATAX coffers, and could be used next year? Because we can't
Correct.
change the amount, it doesn't have to be 75, it was
That's
50, and
correct.
we just raised it to 75.
that's correct. And to go back to Park's point, if you will, I think it's, if you needed more information on the requests, you kind of felt like you were missing something, we can certainly do that. But to this kind of question of what the goal should be, I think you all as a group should talk through if the applications meet what you all think is the intent of this purpose, and make a recommendation. So it's either you kind of like the direction of the request and you make a recommendation, or if you just need more information, we can go back and get that. But there's not a problem with you all debating the merits of should this request be funded in y'all's mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. I just
No,
said
no,
that the
it's
folks
okay.
aren't here to defend and answer their questions. So if we have more
I was
questions, we
under
can
the
take them back
impression,
to
for
them.
example, that CVB might be here. I know they have a conflict, they have two meetings going on at one time, but
Right.
whatever, but okay.
But they wouldn't need to be here
No,
because
no,
we've
I
already
know.
approved their
Right,
budget.
right,
Yeah.
I got you.
This is strictly
This
the
is the-
three. Yes,
right.
ma'am. Okay, good. Any more questions before we dive into each individual one and kind of have I know it's not having a discussion, but it's more of, is this directionally accurate? Are we good with it? Do we have more questions? And so we can start with the YWCA. Martin Luther King.
Can I ask one clarifying
Yeah,
question
absolutely.
before we start?
Please.
So just for clarification, we're at 75K proposed. Where were we in the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
50.
50. So we've gone from 50 to 75, and we were at 50 for a number of years,
Yes,
right?
Kind of.
Got
And
it.
that was sort of arbitrary, we just
Yeah.
decided that more was being asked.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we asked for more just because we had seen, we were already over the 50 in requests, and so we want to have the room to approve them. Okay, we want to move into a discussion of the YWCA Martin Luther King Jr. event from Ms. LaVonda Brown, the amount of $10,000.
Do you want me to start?
Sounds like you're going to. Fire away.
It's not that I'm not for this event, but when you can only have 4 people staying here, I don't think the $10,000 would warrant the event. I don't, and that's just my opinion. We all have ours, but I think, now this is, again, my opinion. In the past, I've been on this committee probably longer than anyone, and I've seen money just been given out, just, go along to get along or whatever. I've just seen unreasonable amounts of money being given out and not equalizing what was really the purpose of it. I would like to see this committee start looking and being a little bit more of a penny pincher and saying, we've got this $75,000, is it worth it to give it out to this group or this group or this group, when there are other things, and I've been very vocal about it, that we could do with that money as opposed to to giving it to committees or groups that may not warrant what they're asking.
I would tend to agree with you, Becca. I'm all for being charitable, and that should be part of how the city operates, but this committee, these funds need to be focused on meaningful ways to improve the experience people have on the island. That's what drives revenue and coming back in good experience, whether it's safety, accessibility, beautification, all of those things, versus, to me, they are two separate things, two separate objectives, and I don't see ATAX as being the charitable arm for worthwhile events. I'm not disputing that. I just think we need to, as you said, roll up our sleeves, save our money, and do meaningful things that are going to do the key KPIs that we believe. And we still need to be sure City Council's sharing that, because we don't have access to a lot of their time and/or thoughts. But I'm just wanting to let you know I'm of the same opinion that you are.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think I would say I was probably the one 2 years ago where everybody voted not to give this group any money. I said maybe $5,000. They didn't have any, that was new, so they didn't have anything to back up what they could do. And then last year, I think we gave another 5.
No, actually, they missed several meetings and we didn't give them anything last year.
I think that's correct.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
'Cause they-
So, and I think, $5,000 and 4 guests. I think maybe what we did with the limbs, I think they tried to get some money here and they went to another bucket of money. Because it wasn't ATAX money. So maybe this might be the same case.
Yep.
I think it's a growing learning thing for them. I think one of our concerns was it wasn't open to the public, so why would public money go to it? And they have made it open to the public. So I think that they're trying. Is it a worthy event to let Isle of Palms be known as supporting Martin Luther King Day and having this event? Sure. And again, 5,000, I would be okay with that.
I think that, yeah, I agree. I think we're maybe threading the needle here a little bit, but I think it's important that it is a cultural event, which to me kind of is one of the reasons, one of the kind of cornerstones of why this money is put out there. It is trying to pull people to the island. I get the sense that Miss Brown is, and I don't know her well. I've met her the one time that I think she was here. I think she kind of does this on her own. I mean, I don't think she has much support, so I want to give her a little bit of grace along those lines, and maybe she's not as maybe as polished as the Chamber of Commerce is, for example. But I do think that it does warrant an investment from the city. I don't think that 10,000. I agree with you, Rebecca. 10,000 may not be it. I just don't want to be punitive because she doesn't maybe have the bandwidth to be here for every single meeting if she's getting pulled in 10,000 different directions. Rod, do you have any thoughts on it? I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at YWCA and then Martin Luther King Jr., it feels like a must-do. My first thought was, in the future, maybe she can benefit from some coaching along the way as to, what this money really means and where it originates. I just did some quick math, and I don't want to get ahead of us. But the difference approximately between 95,000 and 75,000, what's being asked for and what our budget is 20%.
Mm-hmm.
If we back 20% out of each number being requested, we get to 76,000, a little over. That puts her at 8,000, puts Mary Alice Monroe at 28,000, and the chamber at 50, if we went that route.
In my opinion, there's no reason to think about it that way. We arbitrarily raised it. It was 50, and we thought, well, gee, there's more asks, so let's raise it. But that doesn't mean we should cut it back 20% and cut back things that might be totally acceptable at their asking
I
price.
agree with you.
So,
But just as a baseline,
right,
if we stuck at the 75 and we said evenly, back out 20%, it makes the 5,000 number we're talking about seem reasonable. And I hate to use the word coachable because I don't know her as well or what the situation is, but I think it gives her a starting point. And again, why wouldn't we support YWCA and MLK Junior Day? You know, those are my thoughts.
Well, Rod, I think we should look at each of these individually and not say a 20% across the board reduction. Each of these applicants have a specific request, and I think we should be looking at each one as a specific
That's fair.
request and not just as a statistic of 20% across.
That's fair. And the reason for me bringing that up, the way I did is I wanted to get that out there in case anybody felt like we need to be even across. But if it's the merit of, you know, the application and the cause and past history, I completely agree with everything you said.
so how do we approach this now? If we were to say we would like to have it be 5 instead of 10?
I think that's your recommendation. I mean, I think a motion just be made to recommend approval of 5. If that sounds like there's some consensus at that point to me.
I'm good with that.
Make it-
I recommend 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right, next one on the list is the Isle of Palms Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Zachary Larry was the one who made that presentation. Open up the floor to comments and questions on that.
Yeah, I'll drop a bomb here. Very nice video. We paid for that video. Very slick, very pretty. No question about that. Does it put heads in beds in the off-season? No, I don't think so. I don't think the video represented or succeeded in putting heads in beds in the off-season. I also can't support ATAX money being used for an advertising commercial for the Chamber of Commerce. The video is used and lists at the end to solicit membership and to solicit donors to the Chamber of Commerce. I don't think it's our point, just lost that word.
Yeah,
I don't think it's appropriate to use ATAX money to advertise the Chamber of Commerce. I'd be curious whether they would be doing this project if they weren't getting our money. In other words, does the chamber embrace this as one of their goals? Or is it because, oh, there's money out there, let's go chase it? And that's the feeling I get, especially we gave them 15, and that isn't the rationale for giving them 55. We gave them 15 to make a video, and they did, and it's beautiful. But I was very disappointed to see them looking for members for the chamber and looking for money for the chamber in this video. So I would be voting against giving this $55,000.
Was this on last meeting? I think I'm.
Two meetings ago.
Well, have you all seen the video? You've all seen the video?
I missed the video. I saw them do, the presentation I saw was about the meta ads, the giveaway, and then they dollarize the number of audience. I think if there's a video, at least from my experience, any video I've seen has been produced by chamber funds, by Laura, to promote membership, possibly. Those have been on Instagram. I'm not aware that those.
We paid for doing this video that I believe
I
I
think it was
saw.
part of the funds, yeah. I don't think it was all of it.
Well, right,
Yeah.
15,000.
But did they show the video in their presentation?
I think they did. It's just, I saw it just came up on my feed, I guess, Instagram feed. And I thought, it's really pretty drone footage. It's just very nice. But again, they're looking to be a marketing firm for the island, right? Is that the chamber's goal? To be a marketing firm for the tourism in the island? Or is the chamber to support local businesses? I don't know that ATAX money, they're not putting heads in beds. They're using statistics, provide all additional economic and other relevant information justifying the grant of ATAX. And they're using statistics, 12,635 check-ins, 63,175 tourists. Well, they certainly aren't claiming that those are because of them. They're just using general statistics. We know we're busy. We don't need more people in the summer. In fact, as a 25-year resident, I prefer it was winter all the time, but of course, the businesses don't like it that way. But I just find it unseemly that we're advertising the chamber, we're paying to advertise the Chamber of Commerce.
Also, I agree with you, Barbara, but on another level, we have the CVB, and they are working. In fact, last night when I was at the meeting, Rusty Streetman was saying that he's been around when this committee had a contentious relationship.
He had a contentious?
No, in the past, there was a contentious relationship with the.
Between
with the-
ATAX and
Oh,
CDB.
yeah.
And CVB. Now, CVB has started giving us the information that was requested in the past, but was not given. Now they're working with us, they're listening to us, they're trying their best, and whether it's a little maybe possible competition, or that we've just addressed a situation that's been let go for so long. But nevertheless, he was very happy that the ATAX committee was working with CVB, but especially that CVB was working with the ATAX committee. Now, if we're, and especially if we're going to keep the CVB as our marketing arm, why are we paying the chamber $50,000 to do pretty much the same thing? You know, we don't have this money to throw around if we are going to have a mission statement of making every dollar count. I don't agree with giving them any more money. We did. And also, too, why can't they go and do their own funding? I mean, they've got the businesses here on the island. Why can't they do more funding? I was part of the chamber in years ago in North Carolina, and we did our own funding. We did not ask the city for money. We got it from the businesses. So that's just my feeling. I think everybody needs to just talk openly, whether it's a popular concern or not. But again, I don't like that go along to get along and giving money out just for appeasement.
Well, again, and that 55,000 could be to improve the entrances, could be to improve the walkability, could be another start of another beach path, which are great. The new beach paths are over the moon, great. But that's serving the entire community. If heads and beds is the object of ATAX in a single sentence, obviously it's more than that. This isn't doing it.
No.
Chrissy, I want to throw it over to you because you're a member of CDB, and are you a member of the chamber?
We are not.
You're not a member of the chamber?
No.
Okay, so what would your perspective as a business owner on the island that's not a member of the chamber, what would your perspective on ATAX money funding specifically?
Well, I was
the
just trying
chamber?
to think when the chamber started, and Ron, maybe you can answer. The CVB, we gave some money to the chamber, the ATAX. But then the CVB also
They gave some money to the
gave some
chamber
money to
too.
get them up and started for their website.
Right.
And then I think the chamber makes their money through memberships
And donations, apparently.
and donations. And then it was also, I guess, told to me when they approached Islander was it was a hyper-local marketing group, which to me then with ATAX, it kind of throws ATAX out of the window because aren't we casting a broader net for heads and beds?
Right.
Unless it's trying to, I think that from what it was sold to me as the chamber was trying to cast a smaller net to get the people from Mount Pleasant or downtown out to Isle Palms and not further away.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of confusion here, and I'm just speaking from my experience and what I do know. The chamber's goal has always been to support the businesses on this island. We don't think they don't think it's fair to go to Mount Pleasant and recruit businesses because they're a member of the Mount Pleasant Chamber. We don't want any overlap. So because there's only, X amount of Isle of Palm businesses, their funding is this, always will be. There are no donations. There's no I'm sure they would accept donations, but I'm not aware of any donations that have ever gone to the chamber. So if businesses on the island or that do business on the island are not members, that's their only stream of funding. I understood, and I've got their presentation up, to be a form of them standing in the gap of CVB. So CVB never funded the chamber. They did help support some of the digital media and web development, but that money went straight from CVB to the provider, okay? That money-
Indirectly to the
that-
chamber, though. If the chamber weren't the,
It did, but I want to be clear that it never went to the chamber. It did support the chamber's mission of startup, but the money went straight from CVB, never to the chamber, never hit the chamber's checkbook, went straight to the provider. That money got pulled. So now the chamber is left with no outreach, no ability to reach visitors, and there was what came to the chamber from some of our influential residents, elected officials. There's a gap. The CVB does a great job of covering Charleston. They do focus on Isle of Palms, but there's still a gap on how do we reach, how do we get the most out of the ATAX dollars to focus on Isle of Palms. No one is doing just Isle of Palms. Would the chamber be interested in playing that part? So I think what you saw was the chamber come to you and say, let us try something. We would like some funding. We think we have an idea to drive more direct traffic and get more eyeballs on the Isle of Palms, both for day and out of state. And let's focus on key markets where we already know from the heads and beds data these people are coming from. So we know who to target. And if you give us this money, we're going to come back to you with some results, and we're probably going to ask for some more because, and so what I saw them saying is they want to promote what aligns what they understood as the city's direction as a family-friendly vacation destination. They lined up directly with what the city said potentially their new marketing focus might be. And I know none of that's formalized. They targeted individuals 25 to 65 in markets of Atlanta, Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Knoxville. They showed some of the campaigns and some of the beautiful artwork you talked about. They had just 3,800 entries into this giveaway to help promote it. They only spent $10,676 for that campaign, which was Meta, Facebook, Instagram. They did it from December 1st to February 1st. And they had, all these outrageous, 15,000 in ATAX fund generated 1.6 in potential IOP revenue. And then, if clicks or ads viewed and all that makes 1.2 total impressions at a cost of $848 a day. So to me, that's what I thought they were trying to get across is if they converted 272 leads, that would be 120 grand in lodging, 44,000 food and bev, and 23,000 in activities. Total of 185,000 in ATAX revenue from 15,000. So I saw it as, I did not see a video, and I'm unaware of any ATAX money being used by the chamber to create membership marketing. This money was completely set aside, to my understanding, and it went straight to this campaign, and the presentation shows you exactly what they spent it on. So all that is to say, I do think the chamber and CVB can work well together. But this goes back 2-3 years when chamber came and said, ATAX, we understand you guys have some money that could potentially help us. So it was lights, I think, on Front Beach. It was
which they generated, the chamber generated that project. It didn't come from the city.
Right.
I mean,
Right,
they
exactly, but.
took the
I
bull
don't
by
know-
the
I don't-
horns,
I
did
don't-
it, and then said, go look at it.
I don't recall all what they asked for every time they've been in front of ATAX, but I know it's not, this is the third time, I believe, or fourth time they've come in front of ATAX. So anyway, that's some backdrop, at least from my perspective. I don't have a perspective of swaying anybody's opinion, but I do see that there's a gap in what CVB is focused on. And I know that those two entities are talking a lot recently. And that the vision of what the city wanted to portray to our visitors as a family-friendly, that they tried to stand in that gap and fill that void to help both the city and CVB. I know that was the intent.
Well, Rod, I
Prestige.
understand what you're saying, and again, I like the chamber, I'm for the chamber, but unfortunately, we're paying, give or take, $1.3 million for advertising. I mean, I owned 4 businesses, and I can tell you, the big money spent on marketing was one of the, I hate to say a waste, but unless you know exactly where it's going and what's coming back from the money you spent, which is really a very difficult thing to do, that's a lot of money being, I hate to say thrown away, but let's just say misdirected. Marketing is kind of a, where you just can't tie the numbers down. With paying CVB as much money as we do, why can't they start focusing in on our palms more so? I mean, for that amount of money, they need to be working with you. Why can't that $1.3 million we pay them, why can't we work with them and have them to direct some of that money to the chamber?
I don't have an answer for that.
I think
mean,
that's an
I think
I think
obvious,
that's how we did it before, right? The chamber
the CVB stepped up and said, they'd help fund.
With the
get it
website or-
up and going, right.
They've pulled away. As of today, the CVB is not funding the chamber or the chamber's efforts. And that was a high-level decision, that they don't do that for other communities,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and it's not part of their program. But they did help originally, because there were no members.
Right.
And we need a website to have members. So I think that was the intent originally. And so once that was all done, they pulled back. And that's been a year or two ago, a year and a half ago.
And so you were saying it was the 15 that the ATAX gave the chamber last year went towards the geofencing and marketing
Pilot,
and,
yeah.
okay.
And this last time, they've come back and reported the results.
Well, I would question
to
that,
show-
but anyway. I'm sorry, we never actually formally met.
Sure.
What is your attachment to the chamber?
I don't have an attachment.
Are you a member?
I'm a member,
Okay.
other than being a member.
Okay.
I was
Obviously,
president.
well,
Prior, I was
schooled.
president. Yeah, I've been president in the past.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I was, okay.
Yeah.
So what I recall, you used the word hyperlocal a second ago, Rod, and I think what put me over the edge last year when we approved the 15,000 was standing in that gap, right? So I get what you're saying, Rebecca, and I think that the CVB has done a great job of doing all Palm specific things, but I don't know that they'll ever get down to doing a Islander 71 specific thing. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I don't think that's in their purveyance to market for local businesses. So what kind of pushed me over the edge the last time, and just for my 2 cents, was that, to have a thriving chamber means we have thriving local businesses, which means we have a place for people to visit when they come to the island. And that's what sort of brought me over to the thinking that maybe our ATAX money could be well used by the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that these businesses, that we all that live here, I want to be able to go to, the Islander 71, because you're here, but I want to be able to go there on February night. And it may just be me and 8 other people there because it's a quiet part of the year. But the way we do that is we have a vibrant business community year-round, and that is what pushed me over the edge the first time, to say, let's give this chamber idea, at least breathe some life into it. I think 50,000 is I look, if you're going to shoot, shoot hard, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I think that's a big number. I think I would like to see maybe a smaller number and see that maybe graduated up and get some more data points. I do not think it would be great for the chamber to rely on ATAX money for their existence. I think that is scary to me, right? I think to your point, they should be raising their own money through membership and any other way they can do it. But is there a place for ATAX money within the chamber world? I feel like that there is. I don't think it's this amount, but I think we should continue to find ways to have them, to challenge them, almost like the YWCA discussion, right? Maybe they don't quite, maybe the chamber doesn't understand what this money is, where it comes from, where it's for, educate them, but maybe bring them along with us on the journey rather than saying, you guys go back and figure it out and come back again in 2027. I don't know how we can get to the bottom of what their budget looks like, and I don't think it's our business.
It's not our business, yeah.
But I also, if they've got a $100,000 budget and 50,000 of that is ATAX money, that scares me, right? A lot.
Could I ask Douglas a question? Sure. There was an issue, I'm just remembering back, to do with cities are using ATAX money for chambers of commerce. Wasn't there some court case or something?
It's a Hilton Head thing, wasn't it?
That it's not allowed, I don't know if that's the right word.
I don't recall that. I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I can find that out. I don't remember that.
There was something about ATAX money going, not
Specifically to the
yeah.
chamber?
I may have it, Douglas. There's something about Hilton Head that I've got in this pile of mess here that I'm very disorganized with.
But I think going to CVB, sorry, Mickey just talked.
Well, could the chamber, we've discussed over and over, we have got adequate tourism normally during the summer season. We don't have it in the winter. Well, why don't we have it in the winter? Could the chamber bring in and do, since they're businesses, can they offer more to people, to tourists in the winter time? I mean, it's up to them. Could they offer get-togethers, parties, functions that would draw people to the island in the winter? I mean, we don't need more functions in the summer.
I think that's where the collaboration between chamber and or the local businesses and CBD will come to play. There's somewhere in the notes from the last meeting where I think Lori said that if you build it, we will market it, right? So, and maybe that's something that the chamber could help us with, is to build Front Beach Fest, which I know that's a city-run thing, but maybe there's a place out there for the chamber to do stuff like that, then we can then ask CBB to market it. But that's probably a few steps removed from where we are now. Go ahead, Mike. Or are you just clearing your throat?
No, this is the best debate I've heard since I've been on the committee, with a lot of good perspectives, and I like when I get challenged in my own mind. So I think this is good. I do feel like CBB is focused on the bigger Charleston market, and we do get some love from them. Maybe not enough for however much, 1.3, if that's what we're giving them. I don't know if we get that. But I do want those businesses, as you said, parts to be vibrant, whether it's February or October. And I don't know, again, I go back to what are the three things we're trying to do? Let's stick to those three or four. We can't be all things to everybody. But it just feels like, if it's 15 or 20 grand, I'm hedging my bet. I'm going to at least contribute that. And as you said, let's get more data, more specific, hold them accountable, and then kind of line up the value and the schedules and the media that CBB is doing versus what the city's doing, and be sure we have a little bit of visibility on the messaging while we want them to recruit more businesses, so there's more good things, more restaurants and bars and stuff like that when people come to the island.
Yeah, we're limited by a footprint. I mean, there's only so many storefronts, so many square footage on this island. I remember when we were thinking about putting a parking lot, a multi-level parking lot at the public, where the public parking lot is. And I think the mayor then, Cronin, figured out that if that parking lot was full, each tourist on the beach would have a 3-by-3 foot patch. You know, so it's just, there's some things that are just not gonna ever happen.
Right.
And
Well, I get it in terms of actual numbers, but maybe I'll call the quality of the experience might improve. Some of these businesses are doing great. Okay. Congratulations, Christy, and to many others that are doing great. And there's some that are not so successful, and you kind of feel like they may wither away at any point, and we won't. Torn Charlotte will come back. And you got to remember, and I'll keep saying this, a lot of people who are living in our core markets have moved there, and they've not driven to the South Carolina coast. They've not been to Charleston or OP. And we need that to be a great experience, a great first impression, not what we've known for 30 or 40 years, and we just see the beauty in everything. We're in a competitive situation, and that's why I think we want these dollars to deliver the most they can and have all the big impact. There's a lot of masters we're trying to serve, and I think we just got to keep reinforcing each other. What are the 3 things, 4 things that we can influence? So I would be good on this for 15 or 20 grand if that's where you want to land the plane.
One more observation from my vantage point is I've noticed Wild Dunes advertising on local TV. I don't know if anybody has picked up on that.
you must watch Jeopardy, because those
I
during the
turn it off
Jeopardy
as soon as I
time,
can, but
there's again, a beautiful video.
it's a great video, but I'm like, why in the world is Wild Dunes advertising on local TV? And that made me realize that Wild Dunes probably has room at the end, so to speak. And so I think, again, I bring it up every meeting about my concern about what's going to happen with the crazy economy we're living in right now. Wild Dunes is being proactive, and I finally listened to it this morning. It was on Today's Show this morning. But they say they say the specific word staycation, and so I know we're here to put heads in beds. I got it right that time, but I don't think that we can underestimate the value of just having people on the island to support the island. It's not always going to be overnight stays. There are going to be day trippers. I don't know what the ATAX money, if we're allowed to spend ATAX money on the island experience, or if somebody comes and does a day trip, and they may like, wow, I want to do a staycation and go stay at a VRBO on Front Beach. I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely torn on it. I don't think $50,000 makes sense. I would be in the same camp as Mike to maybe give them, a reasonable amount, $15,000 to $20,000 they can maybe do something with, and then, much like we talked about the YWCA, be more engaged with them through the year. We're engaged with CVB now. They welcome the engagement. We should be engaged with these folks in the sense that we want to be engaged with them and then help them be successful. We shouldn't just say, hey, here's a check and call us in a year. I don't think that's the right thing to do either. I think there's a middle ground there.
Well, how about if we go back to last year's funding, to repeat that? That would help again for their website or whatever.
But like Park just said, which is so important, is stay in touch with them. CVB now, they were at the meeting last night. Every time you turn around, they're here, they're in front of you, trying to accommodate our needs as much as possible. We need the same thing. If we're going to give the chamber money, they need a representative here for every meeting, especially the special council and the council, and make presentations. We need to stay in touch, as Park just said. We just don't want to, as again, being the longest survivor of this committee, just give money away and then ask nothing, no feedback in return. Just give it, just to give it. And if we can work out a one-on-one, meaning committee to a person, a representative at the chamber, and say, okay, what'd you spend that money on? Well, we would like to have it spent here. What is your thoughts? Can you do this?
So more of a liaison type of relationship.
Yes,
I want to go
absolutely.
back to the CVB thing. I'll put you on the spot because you're the numbers person, and if you don't remember, that's fine. But Mike, I want to touch on something you were talking about before in terms of how much money CVB puts towards the Isle of Palms. I remember somebody at the meeting last time, one of you guys that was here before, I believe that we represent 9% of their overall ATAX money and 4% of CVB's overall budget. Am I the one who?
That sounds right.
I think
yeah.
that's right.
When I heard those numbers, that was like, oh, wait a minute. You know, we think we're a big fish in
Yeah, I
a
was gonna
small,
say,
in a
yeah.
small pond. We're a small fish in a big pond. And so I want to put some perspective on that relationship with CVB versus what we may have with the chamber. And I think that should be part of our coaching and guidance to them going forward, is to make sure that there's a healthy balance there. CVB, if Isle of Palms ATAX money went away tomorrow, CVB would be fine, right? I mean, or I know our person that we employ would obviously have to look for maybe something different, but in general, is there a war starting out there? Do we need to? In general, I think we need to keep those things in perspective. So I don't, again, no way for us to know what the chamber's budgets are. I don't know how you guys feel about maybe the same recommendation. I think I heard you say it, Mike. I heard you say it.
Their application says a total budget of proposed of 250,000. I don't know if that's for this project
Okay.
or their
That's,
Overall, yeah.
Overall budget.
Sure.
Rod, do you have any insight
Not sure.
to what that number is?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Isn't it part of, when we give money, they have a year to report back?
Yes.
So I think if we do, hearing from Rod and hearing that they spent $10,000 something on the marketing last year, and if we give them the $15,000, that's enough to cover that marketing again, because I think in the shoulder season, that's where the business
and
is
see what
needed.
the results are.
And see what the results are. We haven't heard from the results, I guess.
There were some statistics in their request. It's somewhere in this one, and I can get that if you don't have it in front of you.
No, I mean, it's in front of me, but I'm
It's
not.
hard to look at.
It's one of those things that it's a little bit sort of out there because
Yeah.
it's clicks and it's, you know, you have to make some suppositions when you do that kind of data.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
And, you know, just this whole application for this, you know, and I'm reading through it, you give them one little line to, you know, explain the whole thing, where Mary Alice Monroe's literary thing, they gave a separate document, right, that explained everything.
That's a
think
writer
that-
versus a mathematician.
There you go. But that would be helpful, because, I mean, I'm trying to read, it's a font of about 5, you know, and it's not telling me enough, where if they had it on a separate piece of paper, like the literary festival did, you get a much better idea, and you don't have to go through 43 pages of application also.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but close.
Well, I think to move things along here today, I would make a recommendation of 15,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you for that. I think that was a great discussion,
No,
Mike.
it was a great discussion.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Okay, so maybe
And
we
you know
say
what,
that.
I like to leave after grade. I'm sorry I'm going to be departing for a few minutes early. I'm kind of stacked up today. I wish I was there with all of you, and thank you for your service and allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Mike. We
Thanks,
need to talk
Mike.
about that flag behind you when you're back down here again.
Lenora Sellers will be with me. We can't wait to see you.
Tell Kate Kovenick I said hello.
I will.
All right, buddy, be good.
See.
All right, the last one, I think, maybe the easier of the three climbs, because we've got such great, rich history with Mary Alice Monroe's author events. I think she's done, I think, an exemplary job of really painting a picture about the impact of her event and what it brings to the table. So hopefully this will be as open and broad a discussion as we need, but I think she answers a lot of questions in her approach to the application. So I'll open it up for discussion.
Well, Mary Alice Monroe put Isle of Palms on the map. If you've read any of her books,
love her books.
no one outside this area at one point in time was aware of Isle of Palms.
Right.
And with her books, that was the best marketing that you could ever pay for, because those books sold like hotcakes. I have friends in other states knowing that I live here, and they say, I've had to stand in line just to buy the books and have Mary Alice to to endorse them, to
Sign
sign
them.
them. But she has put Isle of Palms on the map better than any of the other advertising that we have used, in my opinion.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's probably true. 7.5 million books.
Yes.
But just an anecdote, we're on the turtle team and we're out at a nest and someone, in Wild Dunes, and someone comes walking down with a cup of coffee, still in her robe and pajamas because it's 6 o'clock in the morning. And she goes, "Oh, turtles, you know, I'm reading a book." I said, "What's it?" "It's The Beach House by Mary Alice Monroe." And we go, "You mean her?" I mean, so it is true.
That's awesome.
I guess you could say over 20 years, because the Beach House is 20 years old, tens of thousands of people have discovered Isle of Palms because of
Through her
that book.
books.
Yeah,
Through her books.
absolutely true.
Any other questions or discussion from the group?
I think it's a great event.
Well, yeah, and it's asking for the same funding as last year, and she's expanding the event. There's going to be one more author event
Right,
coming in the
right.
fall, so.
And I think her numbers were down, as I recall, because one of the main authors, well, they
Broke
weren't
their
down
leg.
necessarily.
No,
but
they
somebody
sold
pulled
the
out.
tickets, yeah, well, they broke their leg.
Yeah. No, it wasn't- right. But, I mean, I think that affected her overall results to some limited extent.
I'm not sure, because that happened like 4 days before the
Oh,
event.
so they sold the tickets.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
tickets
yeah.
were all
Okay.
sold,
All
right.
right, fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion for recommendation of Mary Alice Monroe's author event for $35,000?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, all righty. I do not think we have any new business, nothing's popped up. Is anything on anybody's list that didn't get to the council? Or to the city, I'm sorry. All right, and then the last thing is the next meeting date. I know Mike's not on, but I know that we had talked about trying to keep a strong cadence up, certainly through budget season, which I think we've just made it through. But I do think that as we move forward, if we're talking about engagement with CBB, if we're talking about engagement with the Chamber of Commerce, if we're talking about beautification, and I want to make sure, I want to maybe touch on the beautification thing, just as a matter of record, and Douglas, correct me if I'm wrong, I know we've discussed this a couple of times, but everybody's here except for Mike, so which is good. If this committee wants to get involved with beautification, we want to talk about this entrance and talk about the breach inlet entrance, other things that we the city may or may not have purveyance over, that would start basically once this budget's closed out, and then we would look to, in the fiscal '27 budget, that's when we would, in theory, have a line item that says X number of dollars for beautification that we collaborated with the city on
That's
between now and
correct.
then.
Yeah, you all could, if you wanted to, use this next year to develop whatever projects you're kind of thinking through and have on your mind. We would need, depending on what projects bubble out of that, we would obviously, at a staff level, kind of look at appropriate funding mechanisms and if it's ATAX eligible, depending on the project. But whatever funding mechanism is needed, we could develop that, incorporate it into next year's budget, and make that a recommendation to the city council. So, this group has kind of been hyper-focused on, obviously, the ATAX buckets and which bucket is for which use. But I think if this group came up with an idea that was really geared towards the visitor, I mean, we kind of dance around what's good for the community, what's good for the visitor. At the end of the day, it's your purview to kind of oversee the experience of the visitor. So I think if that's kind of the lens that you see it through, we could certainly develop some projects.
Great. Thank you for that. So with that in mind, I know we're hitting the summer, people are busier, people are traveling, but I don't want to lose momentum. So what would people, I don't know that the monthly cadence is necessary. I know that it puts the city staff on, it's one more thing on your list, maybe bi-monthly. Is that, I know we used to go from like October to February or whatever without having a meeting, which is nuts. But would we want to try to go to a bi-monthly cadence or something along those lines?
I'd like that idea. And because I'm sure that in June, especially June and July, people are busy. They're traveling, and it's going to be difficult to get everyone together. I like your bi-monthly until we start the budget season, so instead of June, would you want to look at July? Or is that not a good idea? Or have June and, I mean, it's all up
Yeah.
to
I mean, I'll be here, so.
everybody.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. From the city's perspective, I mean, I know this is obviously you guys will be happy to accommodate,
Yeah,
but.
yeah, I guess what we would be wanting to be clear on is what the goals of those meetings would be. Would it be to focus on specific projects? I think that's what I'm hearing you say, Park. You would like to kind of hone in on either beautification or infrastructure projects
Right.
that we could improve the visitor's experience. If that's the goal of the meetings, we would just want to know what that goal was.
Yeah.
But we'll, whatever the cadence or the scheduling, we'll work
And I
to make
think
that
it's
fit.
more, in plenty of engagement with CVV and with the chamber. If this council decides to vote the chamber money, I think we need to use this next year to make sure we're kind of in lockstep with those guys. I think we've proven that with CVB. I think we need to prove that with the chamber on a lesser scale. So July, I mean, is anybody,
Yeah,
it's a
well,
busy time, but,
After the 4th, like
Yeah.
towards the latter part of July?
okay.
Well, normally we met the second Wednesday, just to keep that.
What is that? Would
That's
that be
the
July?
9th, that's,
July
Too
9th.
close? Is that in the same week or this week?
no, that's the Wednesday. The 4th is on Friday, so the 9th is on Wednesday. Following.
Doing the following Wednesday?
The 16th?
No.
No, I think she's saying the
Oh,
9th.
do you want to stick with the night? I'm fine with the night.
I'm saying that's just the pattern.
Yeah. I think we stick with the pattern.
I think Chrissy's saying, would you prefer to push it back?
That's
maybe?
fine, no.
The ninth?
Is it July?
I actually have it on the calendar.
It's already blocked out.
Perfect. All right, then I think it sounds like we're.
July 9th
at 10
at
o'clock.
10.
Yep, great. I think that wraps us up. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Off record